Hey everyone, and welcome to my craft room. If you don't know, I'm Julianne Richards, and I am an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator in Hobart in sunny Tasmania. And today I've got 3 cards for you, 3 cards that I've designed using this Thoughtful Blooms stamp set and the cute little punch. And I'll give you a bit of detail about those just as I get my iPad to catch up. Just bear with me, make sure the volume's down, make sure I'm in camera. Who's on? We've got Elizabeth, hello Elizabeth, and Susan and Tammy and Jenny. Gee, thanks guys, gang's all here. Just bear with me, I'm just trying to catch up where I am on my iPad. Here we go. Lovely, awesome. Okay, so yes, as I say, I've designed 3 cards for us today using this Thoughtful Blooms stamp set and the little punch. Now, the Thoughtful Blooms stamp set is a free stamp set when you spend $90 or more during SaleABration, which is a wonderful time of year at Stampin' Up where you can get lots of great freebies. So if you buy place an order for $90 or more, you can pick this Thoughtful Blooms stamp set for free. And if you spend an additional $180, you can also get the little stamp, the little punch for free as well. So if you spend $90, you can get this one, and if you put it all together and spend $270, you can get both, or just the punch with a $180 order. But anyway, if you want to know more about those, just drop me a message or drop me a line, and I can explain that all to you. But as I say, SaleABration is a wonderful time of year at Stampin' Up for all sorts of freebies and great offers. Anyway, so what I thought I might do, as I say, I have designed 3 cards for us today, and they're 3 cards for what we recognise at Stampin' Up as our 3 types of crafter. See how dirty my mat is. I probably should turn that over. Hang on. Anyway, you can see I've been working. It's creative mess. Anyway, so yes, 3 sorts of crafter at Stampin' Up. We recognise we've got beginners who are new to crafting and new to stamping. We've got casuals who are starting to get a little bit involved, have a few tools, not a lot, but just like to make a card now and then. And we have the avid crafters, which are probably everyone who's watching at the moment who basically has to have it all. And I know I'm definitely one of those. You have to have the stamp, you have to have the punch, you have to have the ribbon, you just have to have it all. So we are the truly addicted ones. But anyway, and loving it. So what I might do, just to stop talking for a moment, is I will make the first card, which is for our beginner crafters. So basically this card, all you need are stamp, ink, paper or cardstock, and the stamp set. So yeah, so it's very simple, and it's just a matter of doing some stamping, and I think you can agree that this little card is simple but quite pretty. So let's see how I've done this one. So let's give it a go. So the stamp set has some beautiful little blooms, some scroll work there, some thank you messages. So it tends to be a thank you card. To be honest, you could probably, if you had an event like a baby shower or a bridal shower or a wedding or anything like that, and you wanted to make some thank you cards that are just a little bit more special, this is probably an ideal set. Okay, so what I've got is my just plain Whisper White thick cardstock card base. That is basically all you need. So I've got normal 8 1/4 inches by 5 3/4, and I have scored it in the middle for the card base. Okay, I've got the vacuum on in the background, so hopefully it won't cause too many issues. Just to tell me if it gets a bit loud. Okay, so let's start. The colours I've used for all these cards, and I thought I'd continue the theme through all 3, are these ones here. So there's 4 colours there. We've got the Call Me Clover and the Petal Pink, which are lovely together. Then we've got Highland Heather and Gorgeous Grape, which complement each other just absolutely perfectly. That's fine, Elizabeth, I'll talk to you later. No doubt whatsoever. Okay, so let's get started. We'll start with and you need some black as well. So what I'm going to do is suggest that you start with the black and actually put in the sort of like the firm details, the things you definitely need in there and you need to work around. So first of all, I'd say pop your sentiment in. So the sentiment for here, the one I'm using is, I'm always amazed but never surprised by your thoughtfulness. So as I say, it's just a thank you sort of card we're going with here. So what I'm going to do is just ink that up with black, take my glasses off and stamp that pretty much as central as I can in the middle of this blank white card base. There we go. First stamp's the hardest. Now it's all easy now from here on. Okay, so also in the stamp set, as I said, we've got this really lovely scroll, sort of a scroll, a border scroll here. I'm going to put that at the top and the bottom, also in the black. So as you can see, I'm building a framework to put the rest of our decorations on, so that we don't get things too high or too low and then end up with in a mess. Okay, so I'm going to start at the bottom. Hopefully you can see where I am here. I'm going to start on one side, just as straight as I can, and then there. And then I'm going to have to do a little bit more because it's not quite long enough to go all the way. And just overlap it, and straight again, and down. Okay, so if you position that properly, it's a little bit fiddly, you can actually get it to look like it's one continuous line. And I'm going to do the same thing at the top. So I might just turn it around so it's down here close to me, and line it up. And somebody's just pulled up next door with a moving van, so it may not be a good day for a live. We may have to go to sign language, I think, if it's going to get too busy or too noisy around here. I wonder who's moving in or moving out. There we go. So we've got our border at the top and the bottom. So now we can start the fun bit and fill in the middle. Okay, so I'll just keep that out of the way. So that's the last of the black we need for the moment. So what I'm going to do then is build us up a little sort of structure of leaves. And to do the leaves, which is this really nice one here, it's sort of a set of 4 leaves, branches going out from a central sort of location. So I'm doing this in the Call Me Clover, which is a lovely green. I'm going to start it from the bottom corner here and work up to the centre, just like that. And then I'm going to do the same, just turn my stamp. Always turn your stamps just so you don't get the same old sort of thing happening. You always like something a little bit different. So I turn my stamp and make sure I'm going to take that from the top to the middle as well. There we are. So we've got the first start there. Then what I'm going to do is turn it around and hug. Oh, be careful, I've got ink there. Turn it around and hug the sides of our sentiment with the sort of hugging it close. So it seems to form like a little border around our sentiment. So we've got one there. I'm going to turn it around and do the same thing here, where I sort of hug our sentiment again on the other side. There we are. Okay, so that's really sweet. I like the sort of the central axis, but it's also surrounded by like a little frame as well. So I'll just bring that closer to the camera so you can see. There we go. So that's the start. That's like a structure that we're going to start building on, making sure you can see that. Okay, so now we'll bring in this cute little bloom here. It's a tiny little flower from the set. Here it is down here. We'll bring that in, and I'm going to use Petal Pink, which is one of my favourite colours. It's just sometimes you get a colour that just really, really appeals, and this is one that appeals to me. And just a tiny little flower. Now, so on these leaves, you'll see that all around the place you've got a little stem that just ends, and that's just begging for a little flower. So just all around where there's a stem that ends, I'm just going to pop a little flower on the end of it. You may have to overlap the edge if you've gone close, but that's fine. That just adds to the interest. So working your way around, pop a little flower at the end of every stem. Oh, look, there goes my finger. I'm going to pop one there because I've put a smudge. There's always room for a little bit of makeup. I'll keep going all the way around. So as I say, this is a card for a beginner because basically all it is ink and paper, which is really, really great. Just working our way around. I think that's it. So the centre of each of those little scrolls, I've left them blank, and that's because I'm going to bring in a bigger flower there. Okay, so that's all the little, I think that's all the little petal pink ones. So then I'm going to bring in the Highland Heather, which is a light sort of mauve, and we've got the bigger flower here, the bigger one out of the set, which is this one here. I'm going to pop one of those in each of the central axes of the leaves. You can see I put one in there, and then turn it a little bit, and one in there, and I'm going to just fit it so that it's meant to go exactly central with those little stems coming down into the centres of the flowers. So we've got that there. So that's our Highland Heather. And then I'm just going to bring in the Gorgeous Grape, which is gorgeous, and I'm going to use this tiny little sort of star centre here just to highlight our flower in a slightly darker version of the colour. So there, just in the centre. Be careful, I've got some ink there, and there, and there. And that, my friends, is basically all I need to do for this card. It is so simple and so quick, but I think it's really, really sweet. So there we are. So that's that one. That is a beginner card. As far as I'm concerned, and it's, you know, with a bit of practice stamping, anyone could make that card. So hopefully you like that one. So that is for the beginners. And my experience with Stampin' Up is that nobody stays a beginner very long. You start to want to create more and actually you know, sort of express yourself through different patterns and designs. So the next card I'm going to demonstrate is basically the same design, but it's just stepping it up a bit with our embellishments and our layers. So I'll pop that aside, just there like that. Okay, so the next one is very, very similar in its design, but as you can see, I've added some little embellishments and some layers. So we still have our Call Me Clover leaves, we still have our petal pink flowers, but we've used the punch to actually punch out these little blooms and ink them up with the colours. So they just add a little bit more texture. I've got a sentiment here. Our sentiment is here in the middle still, but I've put it on a circle and put it on a dimensional just to give it a bit of lift as well. And I've got this beautiful petal pink ribbon as well. So let's do this one. This is what I'd call for a casual crafter. Maybe casual, maybe a little bit higher, but anyway, so let's have a go at this one. I'll put it aside there. Okay, so for the next card, oh, my flowers are going everywhere. Okay, you'll be pleased to know I've already done a lot of the stamping, and I'll just show you what I've got. This time I've got a Highland Heather card base, 8 1/4 by 5 3/4, scored in the middle. So that's basically half a sheet of A4 paper. I've got a layer of Gorgeous Grape, which is cut 1/4 inch smaller all round. So you've got a bit of a border where you can see. And I've got a panel or a layer of Whisper White, which is where we're going to do our stamping, and that's cut another 1/8 inch smaller again. So you can only see a very small border there. Okay, so what I've got here is everything that I had a ribbon there, that's right. So what I've done, and I'll show you how I've done it, is I've cut out our flowers with our punch, and I'll just grab a scrap of paper and I'll show you how I've done those. So here I've got a scrap of Highland Heather, and I will grab a different stamp out of the stamp set, which is this little one here with the sort of veins on it. It's the same flower as the solid one, but it's got little lines on it, so it's quite cute, just to add highlights. There we are. So again, I'm going to grab our Highland Heather, and I'm going to just stamp one of those little flowers. As I say, I've done them all, but I'll just show you here. So just from Highland Heather, pop that onto the cardstock. So it's sort of tone on tone. So it's Highland Heather ink on Highland Heather cardstock there. And then I'm going to do the same again with the gorgeous grape and the little centre. And I'm going to, here we go, the little centre that I used, the star that I used on the first card. And I'm just going to stamp that in the centre of our flower. Now if you don't have the punch, you could then fussy cut that out. When fussy cutting, for everyone who doesn't know, is just basically a fancy word for cutting stuff out. But if you've got the punch, which as I mentioned is also a freebie during SaleABration, you don't have to do that. You can just pop it into the punch and it will do all the work for you. There we go. Punches are just the best. You don't have to put a lot of outlay on machines or anything like that. If you just have your punches, you can basically do all the great cutting with no pain. Okay, so I've got now 8 of those, or 7 or 8 of those little flowers. I should have 8, which I can use on our card. Okay, so let's get stamping. So I've got this, the white panel here. Just make sure I haven't got ink on my fingers. And again, you're going to get sick of me doing this. I'm going to get the Call Me Clover. And this time I'm going to put the Call Me Clover leaves all over the card, from top to bottom. And make sure you're on a surface that you don't mind getting a bit inky, because we are going to go over the top a little bit and over the edge a little bit, just to give it a lovely effect. So I'm going to start down the bottom here, and then you can just go crazy. Rotate your stamp so that you're getting a different sort of look with every stamp you do. And then we're going to continue up the centre. I'm getting a bit too much ink on there. Hi everyone who's joined me. I can see a few names there. Michelle's on. Hey Michelle. And Anita. Thanks for joining me, guys. So I'm just working my way up. Just forgive me while I follow the plan that I had from the other one. There's no point reinventing the wheel. Just rotating. There we go. Just so I get our flowers all the way around. So I'm leaving a gap in the middle because that's where my sentiment's going to be. Well, not a gap, but I'm not putting one in the middle there, because I want to basically have it so that our sentiment can be there in the middle, not covering over anything too much. And I'm just going to bring in a couple just at the top, just to fill in the space, like that. So that's different to the first one I made. That's the thing with stamping. You can never be exactly the same. Anyone who tells you otherwise is a lot cleverer than me, or they're lying to you. Or everyone seems like slightly different, but that's the joy of it. Okay, so we've got those. And again, I'm going to bring in our tiny little flower with our petal pink. And I'm going to put those all around where we have a stalk ending. Oh, there goes the vacuum cleaner, stopped. Okay, so as I said, this stamp set is free during SaleABration. When you can select it free during SaleABration when you spend $90 or more. And if you would like to place an order with me, I'm happy for you to drop me a line, or you can go online. If you just follow the Shop Now link on my page, you can go along and you can order quite easily online. It's a really good little shop. It's not difficult to follow at all. Okay, so that's probably about it on our purple petal pink. Okay, so now where normally I would bring in the stamp with the larger flower on it. I'm not going to do that this time. I'm actually going to use our little punched out flowers. I'm just trying to find the box to put this. Oh no, I'll keep that out. Okay, so put that away. So now I'm going to bring all our little flowers in, and I'm going to actually glue them into the centres of our leaves there. So there's going to be one here. I'll pop that in there. You could pop them up on dimensionals or foam squares if you wanted to, just to give it a little bit more oomph. But because this one is for a casual crafter, I've kept it a little bit more simple. Wait till you see the next one. Pull out all the stops on that. Okay, so we've got there just a little touch of glue and a flower. And not quite room for one here, I don't think. Oh yes, there we go. Pop one there. I wonder whether I pop one. No, I think that's enough. Okay, so we've got our little punches on, our little punched flowers on there now as well. So now what I might do is layer that up so that on its card base, if I can find it, here we go. So this one will go onto our gorgeous grape layer. There we go. So as I say, this one has the tiniest border, just so you can see a hint of grape around the edge. Just give it a wiggle till it's straight with our wonderful glue. Very forgiving for a little while. Hey Glenda, thanks for joining me, and Karen too. I just saw you pop on. Thanks for joining me, guys. Happy Tuesday. I'm on holidays from my day job at the moment, so I'm taking the advantage to actually get some crafting done. It's wonderful. I love my job, but I love holidays more, I think. Okay, so we've popped that on. So there's our layers and our little punched flowers there. Cool. Hopefully you like that. So what I might do now is bring in our circle for our sentiment and our little scalloped backing there. So these use the layered circles dies. You could just use a punch and just punch out the circle if you like, but I do like that little border of the gorgeous grape around there. So I'm going to use the same sentiment. As I said, all these cards have a bit of a theme happening. So I'll get my circle there and grab my black ink in again. And then I will stamp that. Here we go. And then I will put the lid on that because I'm going to get black ink everywhere. There we go. Thanks, Karen. Yes, I love these colours. Somebody said to me the other day they're their favourite colours, and I think I have to agree. So I'm just going to glue that little circle onto its backing. There we go. And then I'm going to set that up onto some dimensionals. So I'm at the end of that one, so I'll use the edges. Always use the edges of your dimensionals, you guys. Otherwise it's a bit of a waste. We don't like to waste money. So use the edges of your dimensionals. Oh, Glenda, you're off for an angiogram. Oh, wow. I hope that goes well for you. Oh, well, lots of crafting when you get home to recover. I think my mum had an angiogram the other day, so I hope yours goes well too. Okay, so I'm just going to pop this little sentiment box. I need to wiggle it a bit because it's moved off centre. I'm going to pop it just in there, just in the centre of our card. Now, it will overlap this one a little bit, but I don't think that's too much of a problem. So just put it as central as you can. As I say, as much as we try, no two cards are ever the same. Okay, so that's that. And I have pre-tied a bow, because anyone who watches me knows that the definition of torture is watching me try to tie a bow. So I tied this one, which I think you can agree is pretty special. I used my bow jig. Anyone who hasn't got a bow jig, you need to buy one, because they make beautiful bows when you are challenged, like me when it comes to bows. Okay, so I'm going to use a glue dot, pop it on the back of my bow, and then I'm just going to pop that just at the bottom of our little sentiment box, just to finish off our sentiment circle, just to finish off that bottom there. And there we are. So that is what I would call for a casual crafter, or for someone who likes to have likes to make cards occasionally and for special occasions. If that's you, then this is the card I've designed for you. Now inside I would normally pop a little square, but I haven't cut myself one. So in this original card I've just popped the little edging stamp in Highland Heather, and a little thank you from the packet, from the stamp set as well. So I think that is pretty special. To be honest, this is my favourite of the 3 cards that I've made. So with this one as well, I also added some silver rhinestones, which I think lifts it a little bit as well. But I didn't do it on this one because I think that one takes it up a little bit, a bit of a level that I wasn't ready to go to for this one. So hopefully you like that one as well. So that's number 2. Now, number 3 pulls out all the stops. So this is for, I believe, the avid crafter. That's the person who just wants it all. You've got your die cut machine, you've got your ribbons, you've got rhinestones, you've got embossing folders, you've got designer series paper, and lots of extra layers as well. So this one is for if you're like me and you have got a room full of craft stuff, or you're at least aspiring to. Okay, so let's do this one as well. So that's our last one. Okay, so for this one I'm actually using the stitched rectangle dies from the, and I should bring it out to show you, the stitched rectangle dies from Stampin' Up. And I've actually used the 4 largest ones to make our layers. So I'll just show you. This is the die set. Okay, and they are organised today, which is not usually the way. They're usually thrown in. So I've got my card base, and it's slightly smaller than my usual card base. I think it's only 5, yeah, it's only 5 1/4 high. So it's slightly shorter, but I think it's still, yeah, and it's 8 inches scored at 4. So it's very tiny, slightly narrower as well. So 5 1/4 by, not 5 1/4 by 4 is the card base, and I've done it that way to fit in with the dies. So the 4 biggest dies here, 3, and you can look, if you haven't got dies, you can cut these to size. There's no great trauma. The 4 dies there fit perfectly there. So what I've got is and I've cheated a little bit here, but you'll see why. I've got a large one. If you can just imagine, that's a large gorgeous grape with the largest die. Then I've got a piece of this beautiful designer series paper. So this is the designer series paper that comes with our all dressed up bundle, and it is just beautiful. It's got flowers, which fits our theme, and it's got the beautiful purple. I think it's actually purple posy, but it goes really, really well with the grapefruit, with the gorgeous grape and Highland Heather. So that's really nice. So I've got that cut out of the next smaller die. And then I've got a panel of the, get rid of that, I'm going to confuse myself. So what I've done, I didn't want to waste my gorgeous grape because I was running out. So the next one is actually the next size down die, cut from the middle of my gorgeous grape. So you'll see when I layer up that there was actually no need to waste that because it's going to be covered. So I've actually used the centre of that as the next layer, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. So when I pop that on there, which will be the layer, you can't even see that I've cheated and used the inside to go on there. That makes sense. So I've taken it out of there and popped it forward. So that saves you a bit of cardstock, and hopefully we're all trying to save things these days. And then at the very top I have the next size die, which is the 4th one of Whisper White. So hopefully that makes sense. So, but you could, as I say, just cut them to the right size. And if you leave probably about 1/4 of an inch between each layer, you'll get the same effect. Okay, so anyway, we'll keep going on with that. I'll just pop my dies away or else they go everywhere. So I use, when I put my dies, I've got little magnets with my business name on them, so I use them to, and I'm not giving them out to customers, I use them to keep my dies in order as well. Okay, so what else I've got here, I've got my card base, as I mentioned, I've got my rectangles. I've also got, and these are from the, and they're tiny, 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 these are from the Layered Squares dies, and it's the smallest one. You can see they're even smaller than a postage stamp. I've got 2 cut in Gorgeous Grape and 1 cut in Whisper White. Now you could, of course, just cut them, as I say, with your trimmer, and they are, what, 3/4 of an inch square. So I've got 2 in the Gorgeous Grape and 1 in Whisper White. And I've got my 4 little flowers cut and stamped the same way as I showed you with the previous card. Okay, so I think that is all I need. Let's start layering up. So what I'm going to do is grab my white layer, which is the only one I need at the moment, and we're going to do it again. We're going to start with our Call Me Clover and our leaves, and I'm just going to put 4 of the little leaves in there, and I'm going to try and position them so that the flowers are around the edges of the card, of the panel. So you'll hopefully see what I mean in a minute. So pop 1 there. We're going to have 1 flower there, and then turn it around and put 1 on this side. There. We're going to have another purple flower here, and then turn it again. Yeah, so we're going to have another one up in that corner, and then turn it again and fit it in a little bit. So you wiggle your stamp set so that the leaves sort of fit in with each other but don't overlap too much there. Sorry, I was a bit distracted then. My husband's just come back from swimming. He's talking to the cleaning lady. I was just listening, see what he was saying. Okay, so there, we've got 4 sprigs there. And again, I should have done this before we came online. You're just going to be sick of watching me with my petal pink. I'm just going to pop the petal pink ones around in sort of various locations. There. There we are. Not so many on this one. I'll put the odd one in where we've got a blank space as well, just to, since we hate blank space. Here we are. Okay, so that's that. What I'm going to do now, and this card, as I say, goes the extra level, is I'm going to pop that panel through my favourite embossing folder, which is the Subtle 3D folder. And I don't know if you guys have seen this one, but it just gives things sort of a matte, almost linen appeal, and I really, really love that. It helps to sort of antique things, make them look a bit antique-y. And that's the look I'm going for with this one. So I'm going to pop my panel in there, and I'm going to disappear to my Big Shot just off here. So just bear with me for a second. I'm going to pop this through. Unfortunately, I think the effect is so subtle it's a bit hard to see on camera, but believe me, I know it's there, and so will you. So I'm just bringing that through. Bear with me for a second. Cool. And that's done. Okay, so hopefully you can see, if I put it into the light properly, you can see that that adds a sort of a very fine veined effect to our card, which I really, really love. Anyway, so now what we can do is start paneling up, layering up. And we're going to layer up first of all with our panel of Gorgeous Grape there for this one. I'm just going to use some glue. When I emboss panels, I usually use double-sided tape, but this one's so fine that you can use glue on this one without too much problems. So we'll lay that one up as central as I can. There we are. And I'm going to use my cheated one here, where I cheated and used the inside of it. So as you can see, I might actually bring the card base in. That will make it easier. I'm going to pop this one onto my card base. Just a tiny bit of glue around the edge. Don't go too crazy with the glue. And pop this one on here. There we go. There we go. And then I'm going to pop the designer series. Look at the other side of that designer series paper. It's almost a shame to cover it over. Thankfully I've got a few pages of it. So we'll pop that one on next. And as I said, you can't tell that I have cheated with that panel because it's all covered over. Ta-da! There we go. Okay, so I'm going to pop this one up on dimensionals, and I'm going to pop a little ribbon in there. So I'm going to do those first before I commit permanently. So I'm going to pop the ribbon sort of central here. So to secure my ribbon, I'm going to use some tear and tape. So just a tiny piece of tear and tape, probably a centimetre or so long. There we go. Pop that sort of central on your card. There we go. Stuck to my finger. Let's see if it'll stick to the card. Yeah, there we go. And bring in this. So I'm using the beautiful polka dot ribbon. It comes in white, which is the one I'm using here, and it also comes in vanilla cream. So that's lovely as well, but I'm using the white today. So I want my ribbon, my bow, right over this side. So I'm going to try and position it so that I've got most of my, so I have enough ribbon coming over that way. That's probably about right there. It's going to be excruciating again, guys. You have to watch me do a ribbon. Okay, so attach that to the double-sided tape at the back as straight as you can, and then we're going to tie our bow. Could just leave it as a knot. I think a knot is just as nice with this ribbon, but I'm going to do it as a bow. You just watch me. Okay, there. It's nice and firm. And unfortunately this isn't one I could have done beforehand. Come on, come on, come on. There we go. Yay! There we go. It might need a little bit of a trim up. But that's pretty good for me. Pretty good. There we go. So there's our ribbon there. Ta-da! She did one and it wasn't a disaster. There you go. Okay, so now I'll pop this up on dimensionals and pop it into... Shush out there, you two! It's my husband flirting with the cleaning lady. I shouldn't call her the cleaning lady. With Carol. There we go. Just pop that there. There we go. So I'll pop this one on our panel there. So as you can see, we've got layer upon layer upon layer, and now we've got some height as well. There we go. Okay, so finishing off, I might pop our flowers on first. So just to give these little flowers a little bit of something extra, I'm going to give them a bit of a curl. So we left them flat on the first card, so this time I'm going to give it a little curl. I've got my bone folder here, which for some reason looks a bit dirty, but it's not. I'm just going to use it between my finger and between the bone folder and my thumb, just to give the cards a little bit of curl. Just a little bit, you don't have to go crazy. No, not that big. So that just gives them a little bit of a curl down. and then when I attach them to the card, they'll look like a little bit more realistic. Hey May, thanks for joining me. Hope you're well. What's the weather like down there? So there should be 4 of these. 4. Oh, there's one here. So there we go, just giving them a little bit of a curl with my bone folder. This is pretty subtle, and honestly probably the person you give the card to wouldn't even notice, but you will know you've done it. Here we go, last one. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to attach each of these to our card with a little dab of glue. So one down here, as we said, in the centre of our leaves. One here. Just force that down. Because I've got them curled, you just have to hold it with your finger a little bit or they'll bounce back up again. One up here. Hold it with your finger for a little bit. And up here. Oh, too much glue on that one. I might try and get some off. It's going to go everywhere. Put that down here. And that one there. And the last one here. There we go. So there we are. We have our 4 little flowers, and if you can see, they do have a tiny bit of bounce to them just there, just for something a bit special. Okay, so inside each flower, and as I said, this is a card for people who need it all, I'm going to use these beautiful Noble Peacock rhinestones. There is, and I'm just about out of these, I'm going to have to buy some more. There is a beautiful, gorgeous grape one, which I'm just about to run out of, but you can see here, it's a beautiful, well, it actually would be Pretty Peacock, I reckon, but it's a beautiful colour that matches. I'm going to pop those in the middle of each of my flowers. Oh, come back. 1, 2, and there's another one here I saw. Really am running out of these. And I did see another one here. There we go. They're going to be in the next order. So there we are. They just add a little bit of bling. And we all could do with a bit of bling, can't we? Okay, so what I'm going to finish off with is my sentiment. Now, obviously, because my little box is so small, I'm not using the original sentiment. I'm going to use the thank you one that we saw before. If I can find it in here, hopefully I haven't put it away. Yes, there it is. Tiny little thank you, just as tiny can be. Just get my small block here and some black. Oh, put it in the ink first, Julianne. And some black, so thank you. Pop this one on there, and it fits just perfectly. There we are. So thank you. As I said, these are perfect thank you cards, I think. Then what I'm going to do with my other 2 little boxes is I'm going to just back my original box with them. So I'll just get this box and put some glue on the back. And I'm going to put one on the top and sort of offset it a little bit on the top right hand corner. So hopefully you can see what I'm doing there. Just so you get a sort of half border of the gorgeous grape around the top of our sentiment. And then a bit more glue on there. And I'm going to bring the bottom one in at the bottom left hand corner. Same thing, just so you get a square, a sort of a corner of a border. And try and make sure that they're both the same sort of border, the same width of border, and that they're both straight. Just hold it there for a little minute so it takes. Okay, so there we are. That's going to be my sentiment box there. Oh, I'm not showing it to you straight there. Where's my camera? There. So hopefully you can see that. That's going to just add a little bit of interest to our thank you. And I'm going to pop that onto a dimensional. Just the one should probably do. It's only very little. I'm just going to pop it there, just in the centre. just in the centre of our card, just there. Just over the top of the ribbon. It'll stick through the ribbon, so you won't have to worry about that, and it'll hold our ribbon in place a bit as well. Okay, so that is my last card for today. That's one I've put down for a Avid, or a sort of a it must have everything sort of crafter. Hopefully you like that one. On the inside of this one, I haven't cut insides as well, so you could do what you want inside. I've put a little strip of the designer series paper just because I had some spare, and I've put some of the little flower there as well, just to bring the inside, the outside in to a certain degree. So you can do whatever you want. Put the sentiment in there. Actually, I'm going to pop the sentiment that we've used previously. I'm going to pop that inside as well, just to finish this one off. And I've got this thing about putting my sentiments down the bottom, so I'm going to pop that in there. How's that? Finished. Okay, so thanks for staying with me, everyone who has. This is a long video for me. I usually get in and get out fast, but today I wanted to show you these 3 cards, which I thought came up really, really well. So we'll just recap what we've done. We've used the Thoughtful Blooms stamp set and punch to make 3 cards for 3 different sorts of crafters. We've got the beginners, which is this one here. We've got our intermediate or our casual crafters, which is this one here. And we've got this one here on the end, which is for the rest of us who basically have to have it all. So I hope you enjoyed those, and you can get something out of those. Whichever sort of level of crafter you are, there's something at Stampin' Up for you. And as I say, if you've got any questions about any of these products, if you'd like me to help you place an order, as I say, what I've used today is free during SaleABration with a qualifying order. So hey, can't be better than that. But anyway, thanks for joining me today, everyone who was live and who watches in replay. Good luck at the hospital, Glenda, and I will see you all next time. Thanks a lot. Bye.